You saw someone less capable at your work obtain a promotion last month, and you told yourself it was politics. You convinced yourself excellence would eventually win, that the system corrects itself, that your work speaks for itself. You are wrong, and the cost of that wrongness is already extracting itself from your future. Watch how you respond when someone confidently states something incorrect in a meeting. You pause. You consider the social cost of correction. You calculate whether the mistake matters enough to risk the friction. You let it pass. Now watch what happens when that same person makes a decision based on that uncorrected mistake. They move forward. You said nothing, so silence becomes agreement, and agreement becomes your compliance in their trajectory. 3 months later, they are presenting the results of that flawed decision as success because no one, including you, created a paper trail of objection. Your capability became their cover. You have mislabeled your silence as strategic patience. You tell yourself you are playing the long game, that you are building credibility through reliability rather than confrontation. You have confused being non-threatening with being valuable. What you call discretion, the system reads as absence of territorial instinct. What you call professionalism, decision makers interpret as lack of conviction. You believe you are being mature. The organization believes you will accept anything. Here's what you have not noticed. The meetings that determine resource allocation increasingly happen without you. Not because you were deliberately excluded, but because your predictability made your input redundant. Someone already knows what you will say, what you will accept, what you will not fight for. Your reliability has become your replaceability. The people who do get invited are not more capable. They are more expensive to ignore. They have made themselves a variable that must be calculated, while you have made yourself a constant that can be assumed. The incompetent person who got promoted created uncertainty. Uncertainty demands attention. You created certainty. Certainty gets managed by subordinates. Machiavelli understood that organizations do not select for competence because competence is not what powerful people need from their subordinates. Power selects people who make power feel secure. The prince does not promote the advisor who gives the best counsel. He promotes the advisor whose presence confirms the prince's judgment. Incompetent people rise because their incompetence is not a liability to the person promoting them. It is collateral. Someone who needs you for their success is controllable. Someone who could succeed without you is a threat. You have been thinking about selection like a meritocracy. Selection is a security system. When you do excellent work and deliver it on time, you prove you do not need supervision. When someone else does mediocre work but requires constant guidance, they prove the manager is necessary. Your competence makes your manager redundant. Their incompetence makes your manager visible. Organizations do not reward people for making hierarchies unnecessary. They reward people for justifying why the hierarchy must be preserved. You thought you were building job security through performance. You were eliminating your manager's job security by demonstrating they had no value. The person who got promoted required intervention. Intervention creates evidence of management. Your independence created evidence that management is decorative. The cost is compounding in ways you will not see until it is structural. Every cycle where someone less competent advances while you wait for merit to assert itself, the distance between your competence and your organizational value increases. Competence becomes a private fact. Organizational value is a social fact. Social facts are determined by who speaks for you when you are not in the room. No one speaks for you because you have never made it costly not to. You have never withdrawn something someone needed. You have never made your absence a problem. You have been present, reliable, and easily dismissed. Now look at the person who was promoted. They are not good at the work. They are good at making their absence felt. They forget to reply to messages and people follow up. They miss deadlines and timelines adjust. They ask questions in meetings that should have been resolved in email and everyone stops to answer. They are not competent. They are gravitational. Incompetence that generates dependency is worth more than competence that requires nothing. You are beginning to understand that the system does not fail when it promotes incompetent people. The system succeeds. You have been measuring success by output, but the system measures success by control. Promoting someone who needs you is tighter control than promoting someone who does not. This is why the people who rise are rarely the best at the technical work. Technical excellence is a skill. Organizational advancement is a market, and the currency is not ability. The currency is leverage. You have none. Here is what happens next if nothing changes. The gap between your competence and your position will become an explanation for why you were never serious. People will retroactively assign your stagnation to some hidden flaw, lack of ambition, poor communication, and inability to see the bigger picture. They will not consider that the system selected against you precisely because you made selection unnecessary. Capable people who do not assert territorial claims get reclassified as capable people who lack drive. Your skill becomes evidence of limitation, not value. The narrative writes itself without you. This is already beginning. Someone recently described you as solid. Solid means dependable. Dependable means ignorable. You accepted the compliment because you did not recognize it as a ceiling. Solid is what people call someone they will never fear losing. You are being sorted into a category that does not include advancement, and the classification is happening in language you have been trained to receive as praise. The person who was promoted is not called solid. They are called a leader, a strategic thinker, and someone with presence. Presence means they take up space that others must navigate. You do not take up space. You fill space others leave behind. What fills space does not get promoted. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by their eyes rather than their hands, because everyone can see but few can feel. What he meant is that people assess power by visibility, not by function. You have been optimizing for function. No one is watching the function. They are watching who speaks last in meetings, who gets name-checked in emails, and who creates friction that must be resolved. Incompetent people understand this instinctively. They perform power before they earn power, and the performance becomes the evidence. You perform competence. Competence is invisible until something breaks. Power is visible constantly. You now have two options, and both have cost you. You can continue operating as if merit is a sufficient strategy, and you will continue to be valued right up until the moment you are no longer needed, at which point your value will be remembered as adequate. Or you can begin generating the kind of dependency that makes your absence a disruption, which means becoming less efficient, less accommodating, and more expensive to root around. Most people in your position will do neither. They will perform small acts of assertion that feel like change but do not alter the fundamental calculus. They will speak up occasionally, volunteer for visibility projects, and send clearer emails. These are aesthetic adjustments. The system does not notice. What you lose if this continues is not just the promotion. You lose the ability to be perceived as someone who was ever in the running. Organizational memory is short and retrospective. 5 years from now, no one will remember you were more competent than the person promoted. They will remember that person got promoted and you did not, and they will construct a story about why that happened. Competence without position becomes a story about someone who could not translate skill into influence. The story gets told because it resolves the discomfort of watching someone capable get passed over. If you were really that good, you would have moved. Since you did not move, you must not have been that good. That rewrite is happening now. Every day you stay in the same role while someone less capable rises. The story that you always belonged at this level becomes more fixed. The organization is adjusting its past assessment of you to align with your current position, and that adjustment is irreversible. Once people believe you belong where you are, any proof otherwise is seen as resentment, not reality. You are watching the mechanism that elevates the unqualified, and you still believe understanding how it works gives you control over what happens next. Understanding does nothing. The system does not care if you see how selection works. The system cares whether you are expensive to exclude. Right now, excluding you costs nothing because you have never made anyone pay for doing so. The person who rose was not smarter about the game. They simply refused to fund other people's convenience with their silence. You are still funding. That is why you are still here.